Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Oh, what a glorious day. Welcome back to Houselights, our director discussion show here on the Nerd Party. Sorry, I saw John out of the corner of my eye and lost it. Ugh. No, it's not your fault. It's my fault. Oh, what a glorious day. Welcome back to the Houselight. Oh, what a glorious day. Welcome back to Houselights, our director discussion show here on the Nerd Party Network. Today, we're in the House of Miller as we conclude the Mad Max franchise, for the time being, with the 2015 Mad Max Fury Road. I am Darren Moser and am joined again by my friends Imperator, Tristan Riddell, and War Rig Driver. No, I think War Boy sounds better. John Mills. Gentlemen, let's head to the wasteland as we talk about, I keep on saying the end of the franchise, but we know it's continuing on. But Mad Max Fury Road.
I'd say I'm more of a war pup. I have a very youthful face, so I'm more of a war pup, really. So, you know, I'm more, I haven't really been battle tested yet. I want to be. I'll get there someday. Someday.
You want to be witnessed, but not yet. Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, you know. I'll get witnessed in a few years. Just not yet.
Oh, so, man, I think this is current enough that we all saw this in theaters. It's only 2015, only 8 years ago that this movie came out.
I saw it when it came out, but I did not see it in theater.
So
really?
Only amazing people saw this at IMAX as it was meant to be intended.
Now, see, I didn't see it in IMAX, but I did see it in the theater. But this is the funny thing is I saw it only because so many people kept telling me how good it was.
It's a word of mouth.
Was so skeptical of this movie because I had we've talked about the previous movies and everything like that, but it's not like Beyond Thunderdome was like this treasured classic of mine. And they're like Mad Max Fury Road. I'm like, I don't know. It's been a few decades, guys. I'm a little, I don't know. Looking at this out of the, I'm giving this a little side eye right here. And it was like 3 or 4 people, not my friend Joey who didn't like it, who said, you got to go see this in the movie theater.
Wait, Joey didn't like it? I'm shocked. I'm shocked at that.
He thought it was
not that
okay.
Shocked.
Yeah, no, I'm not shocked.
So I actually wound up, I remember the movie theater that I saw it in. I was still living in Virginia at the time. And the missus did not have any interest in seeing it. So this is one where I went and I saw it by myself. And so, I went out and I saw this by myself at a movie theater in just outside Fairfax, Virginia. And but Tristan, I'm fascinated. You did not see this in the theaters? For real?
Honestly, I don't remember why I didn't. I mean, I don't think anything was going on in 2015. I mean, it was 2 years before my first kid and, years after we got married. So I honestly don't know what I was thinking.
No excuse, Riddell. Okay.
I really don't have an excuse other than not really liking to go to the theater that much. I think I remember seeing the trailers for it and I mean, I wasn't really, I don't know, like it through the course of this podcast, I've discovered that I'm not a Mad Max fan.
Fair enough.
But it was, but like I always thought I kind of had like an affinity for it because like growing up, I remember seeing Thunderdome. At least I remember 2/3 of Thunderdome, and
you remember the beginning of Thunderdome.
Yeah,
like most people,
and a little bit of Road Warrior. But I guess it wasn't enough to draw me into Fury Road. I don't know why. Maybe that was in the middle of like the Fast and Furious craze, and so I kind of like maybe rolled my eyes out at it and thinking that was just kind of chasing that dragon. I don't know. It's pure conjecture at my point, but I remember watching it at home and like with Sarah and thinking like, okay, we'll get this rental. It's probably just going to be mindless action. It's, whatever. It'll be something where you can shut your brain off. And then by the end of it, actually, no, not even the end of it. I think by like at the end of the first act, we both turned to each other and we're like, oh, wait, no, this is this is good. Like this is a legitimately good movie. This is crazy. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, I think I almost can tell the exact moment because I took a note of it. 30 minutes in exactly is the end of the storm. And when he wakes up and there's such you realize like you've been holding your breath for like 30 minutes. It is so go, go, go. And that is like, you're like, okay, where am I? Who am I? What's going on? You kind of take a mental breath as the movie continues on. So I'm guessing that is probably where it was, because I had that same kind of experience. So I did see it in theaters and saw it on a giant IMAX screen as God intended, because man, this movie looked amazing. I almost want to knock it a little bit for this most recent experience, because it was so good on the big screen. Like, I almost wanted to pull out my projector and throw it on the wall just to immerse as much as possible in this, because you really got to see it on as big a screen as you can. Like, wrap yourself in this, because the visuals, like, I mean, we kind of had been alluding to this as we talked about Mad Max and the joys of going through the entire franchise as it's laid bare. But it's kind of like Miller is slowly kind of getting his act together of like being this amazing, like we kept talking like, oh, well, Fury Road, when we get to Fury Road, and it's like, it's here. And now, you know, he has dynamic characters. It's a full-fledged plot and amazingly acted, and the visuals are stunning. And I mean, I know we'll break into it, but yeah, I remember though seeing it for the first time. I know a lot of people, like you said, John, it had good word of mouth. It was definitely one of those that probably, I don't know the exact box office stats, but it probably had a bit of a spike after initial release, which is rare just because it did have really good word of mouth. But I definitely enjoyed seeing it in a widescreen in a full theater.
And that's the weird thing, is it is easy to ding a movie. And I struggle with this myself, because I would use as an example, having just seen Avatar: The Way of Water in the theater, I am terrified when I go back and I watch it at home, because there is no way that the experience at home will touch what happened in the theater. And we live, I think, in an age, and even by 2015, we weren't fully in that age yet, but we were getting there, of films not action films especially don't inhabit a space that works well in both environments necessarily. Where when you have a big action spectacle, let me take, for instance, Tenet. I saw Tenet on the big screen. I love Tenet still on the smaller screen. But that plane crash sequence absolutely knocked my socks off when I saw it in the theater. Like, it absolutely blew my mind. I couldn't believe what I was watching, sort of thing. And I watch it here and I say, wow, that's really good. But it's not the same thing. And so I wind up having to tap on that first experience feeling that happens. And I think that Fury Road, I would be very interested to show to my kids, who very much live in the post-streaming took everything over phase, and see if it hits them the same way that it would hit us, or me, I should say. But obviously, Tristan, it hit you in a similar sort of way. So do you think this is the exception to the rule, to use a tired phrase? Or do you think that this is something that proves that it's not necessarily true that things can have trouble translating between media? Like, if it's good, period, end of sentence.
Yeah, I'm very much in that camp, that if it's good, it's good. It works on the big screen as it does on the small screen. I think I remember, speaking of Avatar, which, I just saw the second one on the big screen in 3D. And that was very important to me. I needed to see Avatar 2 on the big screen in 3D, the way that, Cameron intended.
I was going to say the way the Cameron meant our Lord and film master James
Lord and
Cameron
film master James Cameron.
spoke
JC.
in the book.
JC.
Oh,
James
geez.
Cameron.
Okay.
All right.
Moving on. Yeah.
Moving on. But so because like I can't see it at 3D at home. But the thing is that I've never really been in that camp of, oh, you gotta see this on the big screen. You gotta. I think Nolan is the only person that's gotten me into the big screen because he shoots on IMAX. And with Dunkirk, I wanted to see that in 75 millimeter. So I went to a theater that had 75 millimeter. It wasn't IMAX, it was 75 millimeter. And so for those kind of situations, I'll go to the theater. But for something like Fury Road, it was shot digitally and, like had really big spectacle and really, really cool sweeping moments. Would I have said, like, if I knew now what I know then, would I have said no if someone said, hey, let's go see this on big screen? No. Do I feel like I missed anything? Not really. Because I remember there was one time when I was really struggling, like when the home theater debate was really running strong, and I was watching the first Avengers on the big screen. And everybody was saying, like, this is a big deal, go see it on the big screen. And I'm sitting there, super expensive movie, almost all CGI and huge effects and whirlwind of sound and everything like that. I'm sitting there thinking, I could have watched this at home. Like I have one of the best TVs that money can buy. It's not one of the biggest, but it's one of the clearest. It has some of the best definition. And so to me, that is more what's engrossing for me, is that pixel count and that brightness and that color is way more important to me than the size of the screen. So long story short, no, I disagree.
Well, and I will say, while I did feel that I missed the envelopment of this movie, it's also one of those movies that, you're cheering for the hero. You're in a road race. Like, I miss being around people who are also cheering on the hero at the same moment. Like, there's always going to be that aspect of, and I think, like you were kind of saying, Tristan, it's more prominent as it's not a technological difference, or the gap between the technology of theater and home is shrinking. You have the societal aspect of, like I keep thinking of that story of Patrick Stewart going to see Galaxy Quest at a packed house. Like, can you imagine Jonathan Frakes being like, hey, Patrick, here's a DVD of Galaxy Quest. I know you missed it in theaters. Like, go home and watch it. Like, it would be a completely different experience for him.
I do want to mention that actually I just talked about this today with some of my family, is that one thing that I think really like, speaking of that, like having it a packed house and like people who want to be there, that can really enhance the experience for me more than just the big screen. Like when I saw Halloween, like the third movie to be called Halloween that came out in like 2018 or something.
Yeah, 2018 like Halloween, not the remake and not the original. Yes.
2018 Halloween. We saw
Did
that.
Did it have the word Halloween and they put the number 18 in the word? Because I know they love doing that.
Yeah.
Sarah and I saw that on Halloween, or like the day before Halloween or something like that. And it was filled with people, but not like packed. And it was really great seats. Everybody who was there was just like really energetic and wanted to be there. And like at every single jump scare, people were like, oh, and then like followed by little giggles here and there. And it really, really enhanced the experience. Both Sarah and I really enjoyed it. And we hate people. We both hate people. And we had such a fun time. I bought it on iTunes. I pre-ordered it on iTunes immediately. And then as soon as it came out digitally, we watched it and we're like, oh, that wasn't as good.
It feels like we're belaboring the point, but when I saw Fury Road in the theaters, I was actually at a showing with very few people, not many people at all in it. And so I did not get the big communal experience. It was just, I was guaranteed not to be interrupted by a pet or a child. So maybe that's what the magic of the theater really is it's a guarantee that you won't have anybody walk in the room and say, I need your help with something. It's like, I'm doing something. Would you please just leave me alone for 2 hours? But all of that all of that aside, like I think going through all of the Mad Max movies, I think what Fury Road winds up being an expression of is Miller is, it is a weird experience. I want to throw this out there to you guys. I view Fury Road as proof that each time Miller has done a Mad Max movie, he's just sort of remaking the movie. And as the money and the technology have gotten better, his movies have gotten better because it frees him up to be a little more refined in his assembly, in his approach, in his whatever. But also the idea that this one, I think the writing team is, for lack of a better word, stronger, gets to the core of what he's trying to go for. And so this is basically, he made Mad Max in the 1970s, then he made Mad Max 2, then he made Mad Max 3, and each movie was just a further refinement of the same story. And then he gets here when he's able to go sort of gonzo filmmaking with it. And so it finally, he has the means to make the movie he always intended to make back in 1979. I don't know. That's my take on it.
No, I would agree. I mean, we kind of, it seemed like we were coming to that realization as we were watching each Mad Max movie of like, oh, this is kind of the same story. It's like, and yeah, it's like he finally, the stars finally aligned of budget, writing, actors, practical effects, all of that came together as Howard Stark said, he was limited by the technology of his time and just his ability as a filmmaker. Like, we can see that grew. Like, he still directed this. It's not like, oh, well, with money now, I didn't have to actually direct it. And no, like, his vision comes through in this story. And we'll talk a lot about the story because it's a good story, well told, smart characters. I love a smart character who doesn't do stupid things. I love that Furiosa and Max aren't instantly allies, that they're kind of at gunpoint for a while, and then their uneasy truce comes through the fact that they kind of have to trust each other after he's cleaned out all the guns from her, cab. And then there's that moment where she teaches him the fail-safe sequence to actually drive the machine. And he kind of pauses for a moment because he realizes, like, that's big. Like, that was her one kind of trump card over him. But Tristan, what did you feel for kind of just the main characters and just how they were presented in this story? For the fourth time we're hearing this story. So,
well, I think that's the thing. I think you hit it on the head, is that, like, the characters are smart and they don't do stupid things. Like, even when someone's
realistic as well, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's the distinction I was going to make, is that, like, not everybody's MacGyver in this.
Right.
Like, not everybody even makes a good decision, but they're not
movie dumb.
Stupid. Yeah, they're not movie dumb. And also, all of the characters are unique. Like, even the war dogs, like the individual war dogs that you see, are unique and interesting and have their own flavor and flair and motive and motivation. It's just, that's a hard thing to do. Like, you could have, like, you could have all of the wives be bland copy paste and background characters, but they all have their own personality and they all have something to do. And you could have, like the war dogs all be the same. You could have all the brothers be the same. You could have a Morton Joe just be one dimensional, but it's just, every single character is interesting and fascinating and has their own look and feel to it. And so from a character perspective, this is by far and away the most interesting, even regardless of filmmaking capability and production design and just overall how this is the best movie of the franchise. This is the best movie. This is the best Mad Max movie with the best characters.
Yeah, like you mentioned with the War Boys, like I don't even remember his name, but I love the kind of lieutenant to Furiosa at the beginning when she turns off the road and he's like, "Hey boss, like, where are we going?" But as soon as she says, like, we're going this way, he's just like, okay, you're the boss. I'm going to pass it down the line. Like, and you're like, what is the story here? Because obviously they've been in it for a while. Like, that's loyalty. That's not just Emote and Joe told me to listen to you. That's like, you're like, there's some history here that you're, I mean, obviously not unwaveringly, because it reaches a point where he's like, we're not doing this. But I was just struck by that with that War Boy, where you're like, okay, what is this guy's story? I mean, obviously we can't learn all the stories at once, but now, John,
but at the very least, there's a sense that there is a story. I think what you're hitting at there is, with a well-constructed film, I don't necessarily need to know the entire backstory there, so long as I get a sense that there is an actual history. Because what makes a person
feel like an
believable,
alive character,
right? A character is believable when you believe that they've had a life before they walked on screen. It's the classic thing of, it's almost like that feeling of when you're watching a movie and somebody, you can tell that the cuts, the scene starts just after they yelled action, and the truck didn't start moving until that shot started. And it's like, well, okay, I know this is fake. These characters feel like they inhabited a world and existed in it before I showed up to watch what was happening. And I think that's a big deal. I think there's also and this is a very strange but important attention to detail sort of thing that I think actually winds up raising the stakes and speaks to these characters and who they are, and the little moments that give the idea of where they are and how they have to grow and what they're doing, is when Max is trying to get off of the chain that is connected to the War Boy. He doesn't sit there and try to file things off. He doesn't try to do this. When he realizes it's immovably fixed to the guy's wrist, he doesn't try to do anything except he grabs the gun and he's going to blow his hand off. And then the gun misfires because of all of the sand in it, which is like, it's one of those things that I applaud, where I'm like, oh, wow, somebody recognizes that this sort of thing happens. Okay, hey. But on top of that, it lets me know where Max is in that moment and how he has to grow, which is why I think all of these movies are just Miller retelling the same story over and over until he gets it where he wants it to be, because Max doesn't seem like the Max that I saw at the end of The Road Warrior or at the end of Beyond Thunderdome. He hasn't grown as a person. He's the same guy he was at the beginning of those movies too, which is why if they ever come back to this character, I desperately want them to make clear that he's the person at the end of this movie and not just we're hitting the reset button again.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because there was so much speculation about where this fit in the Mad Max continuity amongst fans when they announced it, because, we're in a culture where we're focused on that now. And so, like, because it was first announced that it was going to be a reboot, and they're like, okay, well, but there's so many callbacks and everything like that. And then it was like, oh no, it's actually going to be a sequel. But like, okay, well, is it post Thunderdome sequel? Because, there's certain things that don't line up, or is it in between because of the long hair, or what is it? What's going on? And it was Miller himself who added ambiguity to it, where I can't remember exactly what he said, but he's like, I'm kind of resetting the character and just putting him back into this revisioned world. So in essence, it's a soft reboot, where if you jump around a little bit, you could say that it's the same Max as in the previous ones, but in a kind of a different line. So it is a sequel, but it's not. It is a reboot, but it's not. So it's kind of just enjoy the ride.
Well, kind of like how James Bond is. I mean, technically, when you change Bonds, you're kind of soft rebooting Bond. Yes, we're supposed to play nice and not contradict in the fact that this is the same person, but it starts to break down when you're like, well, this one is clearly living in the 90s and this one is clearly living in the 60s, and things are very different. Like, this is obviously not the same person, but it's you can hand wave it away, and it's not critical, yes, I'm sure there's someone out there who's like, okay, where's my red string on the timeline of Mad Max, and where does Fury Road hit?
But see, I think that's an important thing to hit on, is because this is something that when I speak with my kids, one of the children in particular, where I say, you guys take things too literally, right? These Mad Max films are art, and it's okay for it not to be Marvel Universe continuity, and say, you know what, I like this character, I'm just going to play with it again. What would it look like if this character that we all like was in this situation or in that situation? Okay, that's fine. And the thing is, that really is getting back to the feel of like the pulp or the serial movies or the pulp
Mad
novels.
Max came across the Citadel.
Right.
It's like, that's this chapter.
Yeah, you jumped in because Humphrey Bogart. Oh, I like the character that he plays. Yeah, let's just do a riff on this. This time they're going after a Maltese Falcon. Oh, you know what? This time it's the Curse of the Mummy or something like that. But you weren't asking to remember what happened in each episode. And and the thing is, I want more artists, I want more filmmakers to feel that freedom to come in and say, hey, I like this character. Let's just do a riff on it instead of try to establish. I mean, if this, God forbid that Disney ever got a hold of this, it'd be like Mad Max in the multiverse. And it's like, oh, God, let's just have fun with it.
Well, it's really interesting because Mad Max is, I mean, maybe there's another franchise that's like this, but it's this rare intersection of a formula, but it's a formula that is retelling the same story each time. So it's not like Bond, where here's the formula, but it's a different story, obviously. This is, and granted, I mean, obviously the movies are different stories, but we've talked how like George Miller's kind of retelling this chapter by chapter of Max. So it was interesting to me in the beginning because, it starts with him and his pursuit special running on the road, and it ends with him not getting to go to the happy place and back on like those are the immovable bookends of a Mad Max movie. It's like he can't win and end. He has to kind of be the road warrior. Go ahead.
That
Jason.
was Tom Hardy's idea.
Oh,
to end that way, because originally in the script, in the storyboards and everything, George Miller had him going up with Furiosa.
Oh,
and Tom Hardy immediately said Max wouldn't do that. Max would get back on the road.
Now, see, what's interesting, because you mentioned, okay, that was Hardy's idea, and it's a good idea. I think it's the right way to end the film.
I think the right way, too.
But what's really interesting to me is the fact that we're sitting here and we're talking about the vision, we're talking about everything that Miller puts into it, the coming back to the character and redoing things, but both Hardy and Theron, for lack of a better word, basically apologized to Miller publicly, saying, when we were on set, we didn't see what you were doing. We had no idea what it was you were trying to accomplish. And what I want to ask you guys is that a failing of the director not to communicate that sufficiently to them to get them on board with what he's trying to do? I'm not saying that to drag him. I'm not saying that we should rethink the movie in any way, but his own actors had no idea what was going on and were getting frustrated and angry on set because they thought they were just spinning their wheels and wasting their time.
So they had a vision or a scope that they could see that was narrow and like, these are
they
my
couldn't
scenes.
See anything.
Okay.
They were like, what's happening here? And they would apparently get in fights with Miller saying, what am I even doing here? What's going on?
So he wasn't communicating the motivation or like, this is how it fits into the grand scheme. He wasn't giving him any of that.
Yeah. And they both said after they finally watched the finished product, they said, oh my gosh, I was so wrong. That's what we were trying to do. Okay.
They were kind of treated like day players. Yes,
yeah.
I'm going to agree unabashedly. Yes, that is 100% absolutely a failure of George Miller's. It is your job as director to communicate your vision to your stakeholders, whether it's your producers, whether it's your distributors, your financiers, your actors. I mean, it's not your job to give that vision to every single person on set, but it is your job.
That first AD, he's got to want to be a war boy when he grows up.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that like if you have Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron, your two leads, and they feel like they're spinning their wheels, they feel like they don't understand what's going on, they feel like a day player. I mean, Charlize Theron is the one who went to Miller and took him aside and said, "Do you know what you are doing?" And Theron is a professional. Like every single thing I've read about her and I've heard about her on set, I have friends that have worked with her, have said that she is by far and away a professional. Like she is there to work and she loves what she does. And for her to go to Miller and say, "Do you know what you were doing?" That is a huge disappointment. Like you are the leader, you are the cook, you are the captain, and to not let your crew know what's going on is a failure.
So does that at all temper our view of Miller and what he accomplishes here? Because I hear something like that and I think, oh my God, he succeeded in spite of himself, not because of himself here.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too. Like I was thinking those same thoughts of like, yes, that is a failing, but in spite of that, the other pieces that were coalescing together as they're making this movie, how long did it take it took like actual shooting and production. I think it took like
7 months.
Yeah, which is
7 months.
That's a long time.
I can't even.
And like the practicals, the practical vehicles, all of the, it's like Lord of the Rings level world building. It really is. And I think maybe because there were so many core pieces of the world and the other things that, like you said, John, kind of in spite of him not communicating that professionality of being the director and things that he should have done, it still came together. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's you have your main actors watching the film being like, oh, yeah, that is actually makes sense. Like you shouldn't be having that reaction on premiere night.
But see, I think that speaks to the fact that it's not necessarily Miller's victory here, but rather the victory of his wife. And I want to say it's Margaret Sixel, but I might be mispronouncing. It might be Sichel, because it's Sixel. She worked as the editor on the film. And
that's right. I remember
this one best editing at the Academy Awards, and so it's almost like she is the one that was able to give it shape. He's the director. He communicates this with her. Right. He sits in the editing booth with her, especially since she edited 470 hours of footage. It took 3 months to view the footage. 3 months to view the footage. And I gotta say that also speaks to the idea that Miller had an idea of what he wanted and really needed an editor who could sit down and say, and talk to, I imagine probably the fact that they were married gave her the ability to talk to him and sit down with him and say, okay, George,
honey, sweetie pie, I love you, but
talk
3 months of my life.
Let's go out. Let's take a weekend. We're going to go out to a hotel. You're just going to lay this out for me. Just give me bullet points of what you're trying to achieve here.
Well, even the composer saw a rough draft of it, and it was 3.5 hours long with no beginning and no end.
And this was basically, and it ran for 120 minutes. Nice, clean, 2 hours.
Which is the longest Mad Max film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it didn't feel stretched. It's giving me major like George and Marcia Lucas vibes as well, where you had her who like saved Star Wars in the edit and coalesced it into something. And in some ways, maybe we have some parallels with George Miller and George Lucas. Maybe it's a George thing, but you have a vision, but that doesn't necessarily mean you are the best director or best person as director. But by chance, it all came together.
But see, that's it. I mean, the thing is, that's interesting in and of itself, because I do think this winds up being, even though everybody overuses the hell out of this term, it becomes a masterclass in why the right editor is key. Okay. And I'm sorry to say masterclass. I hate it. I actually, you know what? After this is over, I'm going to like throw myself in front of a bus for even using it. I apologize. But Lucas works with
dirty.
Well, Lucas works with merch previous to Star Wars. You know, you go to THX 1138 and you're like, oh, wow, this is a crazy, you know, avant-garde, way abstract, crazy thing that I'm watching. And then you get somebody, Marshall Lucas, but also Paul Hirsch and Richard Chew sitting in there, giving more shape, more linearity to everything. And so I think that, Matt, this winds up being something where maybe what it is the previous Mad Maxes would have worked even better if an editor had been in there who could have interpreted, like pulled it out of Miller. Okay, what is it that we're really going for here? How are we going to put this together? I'll table the original Mad Max because that's a low budget, basically seat of your pants type of production sort of thing going on. But maybe even Road Warrior, and then you get to the bigger budget with Warner Brothers involved with Beyond Thunderdome. Maybe if you got a different editor in there, you get somebody sitting down saying, okay, I know what you're going for here. I understand you. And I think that's probably the advantage that she has, is she sits down and she says, I understand you, George Miller. I know what you're saying right now, and I know what you mean to say. Therefore, I can give this a little bit more cohesive shape. Maybe that's a difference.
I think that's really great. I really like how you laid that out. One thing that I think one thing that George Miller praises about why he chose his wife to do this was because she asked him, like, why me? You know, like this isn't my area, this isn't my genre. Because she'd never edited an action film before. And he's like, if I got some dude to edit it, it would look like every other action film that's ever been made. And I think that's really spot on. Like to get a woman and get a woman who's never edited an action film before, I think really gives a sensibility to it that makes it unique, so that it's not just everything that you see on TNT at 3 a.m. Mm-hmm. Now, I do want to admit something, that when I first saw this, my least favorite thing about it was the editing. And I hated it. I hated the editing.
You took your film card and you turned it in by sliding it under the door. No, go ahead.
No, okay, so here's the thing.
Wait, didn't it win Best Editing, if I remember correctly?
That's what I want to talk about. Is that, like, okay, for those of you at home, I've been a video editor for 19 years. 20 years this August. And there's sometimes I get inside my own head and I look at the microcosm and not the macro of editing. And that's something that I've talked a lot about during this podcast, like this entire series that we've done.
I always enjoy Tristan's "What would I cut out?" phase.
What would I cut out? Yeah,
it's really good to hear.
Remember when you're closing a door, how important this is.
Gone Girl callback. So in the first 10 minutes of this film, I thought something was wrong with my copy. I kept pausing it and checking the buffering. I was like, okay, well, maybe this is weird. Maybe something's wrong with my internet. I literally restarted my modem because I thought something was wrong, because the editing was so choppy and so stuttery and sped up in certain scenes that I would never have done that to. And so I could not get that out of my head. Now, thankfully, they got it out of their system for the most part in the first act. And so you didn't see it again in the second act and the third act. But I was just, when we finished the film, I was like, I loved it, but I hated the editing. And then when I saw that it was nominated, I was like, I'm going to chew my own foot off if that wins Best Editing at the Oscars. And it did. I lost my mind. And then after it won Best Oscar for editing, I watched it again. And I was like, okay, from a macro perspective, this is very well edited. And this was super fast. And I don't always like super fast editing, but this did it in such a way that you didn't get lost and you didn't have to blink like and feel like you're gonna have a seizure or something, or like you're watching a Paul, Greengrass film or something like that. But and then going through these previous Mad Max films for this podcast, I was like, oh, the sped up action, that's like a George Miller thing. Like that's kind of like a trademark for his Mad Max films. And so I wonder if he made the editor do that a couple of times. I don't know.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But either way, I started to appreciate the editing from an overall perspective, not just from a don't screw with the frame rate perspective.
Yes, I get what you're saying there, because I agree with you that it's good that they get it out of their system. And I would almost argue then that you have something where once she figures out where they're going, she understands she has to indulge the director up to a certain point, and then she can exercise a little bit. Any good editor will let the director get away with a certain amount of stuff and then say, okay, we got all of that. We got all of that. Let's go and just do something different here.
You can't say no all the time, because if you say no all the time, then you don't have a relationship.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and I know maybe the stipulation was we have to fit everything through the storm in the first 30 minutes. So if you got to overcrank some parts to fit it in the frame rate, no, I know that wasn't the reason. But so you have, again, it's just all these, some would say it's a masterclass of being able to, I'm just kidding.
Okay, see, I'm not throwing myself in front of the bus a second time.
No.
Here.
But no, I feel like, it, okay, I'll say a word that I hate saying, because we're all in a meeting together right now. Subverting expectations. I hate that phrase. Yeah, I hate that phrase and what it's become. But in the very beginning, I mean, you got Max standing there with the two-headed lizard, and he jumps in his car and he's off, and then he crashes. And that subverted. I did not expect that. First time I'm watching, I'm like, oh, he's not going to be driving his pursuit special this entire movie. He never drives it except for that opening shot. And that I did not expect that. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's see where this story goes. And so in those ways, it's like, but you never also, and again, I wasn't watching this with fresh Max eyes, but I have to assume it kind of comes across as you could watch this without having watched any Mad Max.
Correct.
And this could just be your only take. And you're like, then you ask your friend, John, you're like, oh, are there more Mad Max films? You'd say, no, this is it. This is all you got to watch now.
I would amend that as not a no, but none that you need to see.
None that you need to see.
It's okay. You can just watch this one. It's fine.
Just watch this one and wait for the Furiosa prequel, which is such a damn shame that it's a prequel, because it was originally intended to be a spin-off sequel, but Charlize Theron was not available.
I will go so far as to say that I wish they weren't doing it. I will go ahead and be the bad guy here and say that Mad Max Fury Road, you have finally put something together that's what you wanted it to be and what we all wanted it to be and what we all might have seen in our heads the first time we saw Road Warrior and stuff like that. You won. You cannot do anything to help yourself at this point. The only thing you do is this is literally the guy who wins roulette, doubles his money, and he says, I'm going to let it ride. And you're standing next to him and you say, I don't know about this. I think maybe we should walk away with our winnings at this point. Let's just go home.
Are you saying no to Furiosa, or are you saying no to Mad Max altogether?
Mad Max, Furiosa, whatever. You won. You got it done. Take the W. Go the hell home. Retire, make Happy Feet 3, whatever you want to do. Just don't make another Mad Max movie, because all you can do at this point is mess with us and have us all. There are two possibilities. One possibility is, oh, I wish they hadn't made another one. And the other possibility is, this is truly the greatest film I've ever seen in this entire series. And if I'm a betting man,
What are the
and
odds
I'm laying
of
odds,
it being the
right?
second? Yeah.
I'm taking my money and I'm going home because I'm not betting heavily on the second option. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and
I will gleefully be proven wrong. I
we
didn't
all
like
know-
the first Avatar, and I love the second one. So who knows?
I was going to say, like, we all know it's going to be compared. Like, you can't be naive enough to think, like, well, people are just going to judge it on its own. No, they're not. They're going to literally watch Fury Road and then go to the theater and watch Furiosa and be, and again, like, prequels, those are hard. Those are hard to hit. Like, how do you tell it and not tell the same story? Is it going to be another and we're fickle creatures. Like, if it's not a road chase extravaganza, we're going to be like, oh, it wasn't a road chase extravaganza like I wanted. But if it is, we're going to be like, oh, it's just another road chase extravaganza like we said we didn't want, but we really did. It's
the Rogue One paradox.
I don't know how you're going to win.
It's the Rogue One paradox. And the best case scenario is some people are going to say it's the greatest Mad Max movie that's ever been made. And other people are going to say, yeah, it's all right. But, the last act was great. But exactly what we said about the first three Mad Max movies were like a third of the movie was really worth watching. And the rest of it was kind of like, eh. So, that's where I am emotionally with it. Will I see Furiosa? Yeah, you bet damn sure I will. But I don't know. I don't know. I know I'm not on John Island on this one. I know that there are many people living here with me right now where you hear, oh, there's going to be a Furiosa movie about Furiosa's early life. And it's like, okay. But I'm not.
Granted, if it goes enough in a different direction, because obviously she becomes trusted, she gains her status as a lieutenant, like she works her way up, like that could be an interesting story. Maybe we show the bond with her and that one war boy who was like her lieutenant. Like, I don't know if we're gonna get that, but it feels like you gotta turn the wheel, to make a Mad Max pun, enough to do something almost completely different. Because if it's trying to make just another Mad Max movie, that is not going to work. It's really not. But let's talk about the music for a second. I know we're already running a little short on time just because we've been gawking over this and
we're
all
the 47 mark.
Jeez. But I love this score. It was energetic. It was, and I've said before, like, if there's there wasn't a Mad Max theme and Furiosa's got her theme. It's like, no themes in this, but it was from the doof warrior, rocking out in front of his vehicle. It was just a wild ride. I don't think any other words could describe this, just the impact of the scores. I thought it was very well done. I don't know, maybe if I'm running a marathon or something, I could play it and just like get me over that hill.
Oh no, I'll completely cop to it. Tom Hulkenberg, aka Junkie XL. Like this score, there are so many things that have appeared on running mixes of mine where I'm like, it's amazing. This is a fantastic score. And it is one of the reasons why when I saw that he was a collaborator on Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice and marketing terms, I got excited. I said, oh, wow, this guy's going to come in with music for this this thing. I was all for it because I thought that this score, and I still think that this score is absolutely pitch perfect phenomenal. This is on the scale of Tron Legacy. I can listen. It's not as good as Tron. Like, very few things in the modern era are Tron Legacy. I'm just pulling that as an example. But this is like that. I can listen to this score on its own, and I can put a track like Brothers in Arms on a running mix or something like that where I am on the road and I'm like, yeah, witness me. Like, I'm all for it because I think that each piece, he captures something and it's operatic. And when I say operatic, I don't mean in that sort of perfunctory space opera, John Williams sort of way. I mean, this is operatic in the sense that this is something I can listen to separate from the film and enjoy it. And I can hear a story and an arc just in the music as it's laid out. Not necessarily in how the soundtrack album is put together, but I can hear a beginning, middle, and end, and I can follow that arc for the character through the film thanks to the music.
What about you, Tristan? What were your thoughts on Fury Road, the score?
Well, I don't have too much to add that John didn't already say. I'll just keep thinking about the guy with the guitar, with the flaming guitar. Like, I love that the drums.
Yeah, that's the Doof Warrior. That's his name.
I love the Doof Warrior, the drums. Yeah, like the music was a perfect companion. It was an absolute perfect companion. I mean, I think there were times when, I think with the first Mad Max, all of us were like, what on earth is this music?
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
Good Lord. This is pure garbage. Like, it was worse than the movie, and the movie sucked. Like, with this one, it's just like so many decades go by, and you can tell that George Miller is a director that has grown infinitely from where he started, which, I mean, you would think would happen. I mean, like, there's people who have there's directors who definitely peaked when they first started and they're constantly chasing that dragon. And then there's directors that are constantly improving their craft. And George Miller is definitely one of those.
No, definitely. Yeah. This is a great score. I love that we have parts of it that are in universe, like actually coming out, and this is what our characters are listening to as they're going. You know, it's like, oh, crank up the bass means tell my subjects to drum harder, you know, because they're providing all the power. Well, and as we round third, obviously we need to talk a little bit about just the cinematography. So cinematography was for John Seale, and man, I mean, he had just done Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, so maybe he really liked that like brown red color palette, because I mean, you're in the desert, you definitely feel like you're there the entire time. But and again, I don't know if it's the balance between the cinematography or the special effects, or it almost feels like one of those movies, you know, where they put like a blue pass over everything, but they just put kind of like an orange pass over everything. And not in a bad way. I'm just saying it had kind of this camera's been out in the sun a lot, and it's kind of gotten a little overbaked feel to me. And again, not in a bad way. It just had that look to it.
Well, with Seale, like he retired after The Tourist. And then he said that this was the movie that brought him back out of retirement. But then he took, like, so it was 2010 was The Tourist, and then 2015 was Mad Max, and he retired again. But then all of a sudden 2022 came around with 3,000 Years of Longing. So it's a soft retirement. You know, he's not working every year. He's not working every 2 years. He takes about 5 or so years off. And if you've seen 3,000 Years of Longing, you can absolutely see modern Seale in it. Like, if you watch Fury Road and then 3,000 Years of Longing, you can absolutely tell it was shot by the same guy. One thing that I found really interesting about his process behind this is that, you know, they shot anamorphic, and Seale is used to working anamorphic, but George Miller told him, frame everything center. Put everything interesting in the center of the frame.
Interesting.
Because we're doing a lot of fast cutting on this. Like, he knew it was going to be edited really quickly.
So your eye's not going to have time to look from bottom left to upper right.
Exactly.
You just keep everything in the... Well, it worked. I mean, like John said in the very beginning with the editing, like, I never felt lost. I never felt like, oh, the trucks are all going this way and now they're going this way and I don't know where I am. Like, I never felt that.
Yeah, and neither did I. And that's the thing, is that, like, because,
and you hated
like,
the editing.
I did not.
just But you're saying
I know you're going to throw that in my face. Like next year, you're going to say something like, "Oh, this is coming from the guy who hated Fury Road
and wished it ate his foot after it won best editing." But you're saying so he chose to center frame it though, like he was given that direction.
Yes, and he's like Seal said that it was really hard for him to do because making anamorphic pretty, you do not center frame. You put it on the left, you put it on the right, off center, whatever. Yeah. You just like
It's like Lawrence of Arabia, but everything's centered. It's just
exactly.
God, it's terrible.
I just want to throw out there that the director of photography, John Seal, before this had done The English Patient, The Talented Mr. Ripley, The Perfect Storm, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Dreamcatcher, and Cold Mountain. And much like the editor, though none of those are movies where I would say, oh yeah, this is the person that would shoot Mad Max Fury Road.
A Mad Max movie in 2015.
And I have to give all sorts of credit to somebody who can inhabit. The photography in The Perfect Storm is very good. I remember seeing that on the big screen. That's a very well shot film. That's a really interesting film, visually.
A little more blue than this one.
I hate The English Patient. I despise that movie. I haven't rewatched it since the theater, and I'm terrified to like go back and rewatch it and be like, oh no, I actually like this, because I love hating that movie, but I'm afraid it's going to wind up like The Shining, and Tristan gets that joke right there. But Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, like it literally is one of those things. Like the director of Mad Max Fury Road is the director of Happy Feet, and the cinematographer of Mad Max Fury Road is the director of photography for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Like, these are not leaps that make sense to you. And I think it speaks so much to just the nature of filmmaking, that what you're watching, the content, the subject matter, artists have to mold themselves and reconfigure their process and their outlook based on what they're in. It is an extremely difficult thing to do, and I don't think that enough people truly respect the flexibility necessary for somebody to come onto a project like this, or any project, and have somebody sit down with them say, like you were saying, Tristan, I want you to center frame everything because we're going to do a lot of quick cuts, and for that to make sense to them, so that when they're setting up the camera and they're talking to the crew and they say, okay, Hardy's got to be center frame because we're just going to shoot it this way. And the crew might say, well, wait a minute, though. It might be more interesting if, no. That's what I talked with the director. That's what we're going to do. That's just what we're going to do. Like, that in and of itself is a very difficult conversation. It's a very difficult situation to be in. And wow, major kudos to Seal to be able to do that, to shift that gear. And I've never seen The Tourist, but I'm pretty aware that it's not the same type of movie as Mad Max Fury Road.
They have a literal slow boat chase. It is the exact opposite of Fury Road.
So, like, amazing. I do. I think this sort of thing is amazing, where somebody can sit down and they can say, okay, this is what we're doing. And this is what I have to bring to it. This is how I have to set it up. But it's still me. I have to be able to vouch for this product and say, I did this. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, I don't have their names in front of me, but I have to just give a shout out to the production design and the people who built, from the Citadel to the war rig, which is its own character, really. And we've seen the big semi-truck Mad Max vehicle, but this was it on steroids. And just I'm thinking of the engine block counterbalanced swinging arms as they jump onto the vehicle. Like, there's so many amazing things in this that it's just the culmination of Mad Max. It so is. It's all those ideas. And you look, I think back to, a few weeks ago when we watched Road Warrior, and it was like, okay, here we are. Okay, we got the vehicles, and it's like a pale comparison. Like it's like the THX 1138 student version of that idea. And then Fury Road is it like, well, with, a couple $100 million thrown behind it, but it's just night and day.
And just to throw out there, because you mentioned, the couple $100 million thrown behind it, this is the most fiscally successful Mad Max film. It made slightly more than $415 million US, but still posted a loss after all of the marketing.
It was the marketing that killed it.
And Warner Brothers proves yet again that they don't know what the hell to do with a franchise or how to market it or anything like that. See all of the stuff being talked about with DC Universe and stuff and all of those sorts of things. Warner Brothers seems like they're the George Miller of movie studios, where they're successful in spite of themselves instead of anything else. How can something make $415 million? That's a lot of money, kids. And still post a loss. Like, movie accounting will never make sense to me, and it's such a tax dodge, it's ridiculous.
It was actually, I think it was 374 million, almost 375 is the number I'm looking at Box Office Mojo.
Well, I'm going to say that Wikipedia says 415.2.
Well, I'm going to go by Box Office Mojo.
Oh, well, geez.
And I'm going to say I'm right.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Well, this is also in the year of Avatar Way of Water, where James Cameron was saying, like, if we don't break $2 billion, like, we've lost money. But then again, he's taken like 20 years to make this movie. So I'm not
that's the thing is that, like, okay, so if this has a budget of 150 to, some people think it's maybe closer to 180.
Yeah.
So if you have 180 times that by 2, and that's kind of the rule of thumb where it comes to what you have to make in order to be seen as a success. But if you mismanage the marketing and you put too much into the marketing, or put the marketing in the wrong areas, and you overspend, then you're going to get a loss. Because if this thing barely doubles, and it's in that you expected much more, then your financiers are going to see it as a loss. And that's really weird, because this one was such a word of mouth movie. It won the most Oscars in 2016 than any other movie, and yet it was considered a financial loss.
Look, this along with the idea that David Prowse supposedly never got paid money for his appearance in Return of the Jedi as Darth Vader, because they said they never technically posted a net profit from it. Movie industry has basically just become money laundering. It doesn't make any sense to me. I give up. I give up trying to understand what the hell box office even means, except to get a headline, because I think
people want winners, and they want to go see movies that are winners financially.
But the thing is, it's like, oh well, the budget's like 100. It could be as high as 185 million, but you got to double that for marketing. Well, then the budget was double 180 million. That's what the budget was. That's true.
Why do we not? Yeah, why do we not count marketing in the budget?
Right.
It's true. Yeah, we should.
It's nonsense. And the thing is, I'm old enough that I can remember it was scandalous that the Batman movie released in 1989 like cost $33 million, I think, including marketing. That was absolutely scandalous in 1989. And now we're talking about a movie that blows $180 million and makes 415, and it's like, well, it really kind of lost 20 million. It's like, what? I honestly, to borrow a line from Mugatu in Zoolander, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. None of this makes sense to me, and all of these people, like, it's one of those things where I'm like, is the mob involved in this or something? Do I need to get like RICO cases involved in like what movie studios are doing? Because it just doesn't work for me at all. I don't know.
is that we've been going on for over an hour and we haven't even mentioned that over 85% of the effects in this film are practical.
Yes.
Yeah, this was one, I think, when it came out on video, it had a really good documentary on it that like really took you into it, and you're like, oh dang, this was a journey and a half. We're also an hour in. We haven't even said the word Knox once. Which I would say he's almost more of a POV character than some of our main characters, because he is the most rooted in this world. He's not a villain. He's just kind of a creature of the circumstances that he's been
a victim
put
of
into.
circumstance. Yeah.
He's what do they call them? Half-Life boys, because like they're just all jacked up from the radiation and everything, and they're only gonna live so far.
Well, and he has a beautiful moment when he points at the woman he's fallen in love with, and his line, "Witness me." He points at her and says very gently, "Witness me," and you see his entire journey in that moment. That it means something completely different at that point.
Right.
And
it's not where he's spraying
beautiful.
chrome and he's caught the eye of Joe and he's like, oh, what a glorious day. It's like he has come a far way in like, what, 2 days? This whole movie takes place in like maybe 3 days at most. It's very quick.
It is quick. And I think that it's one of those things where it really does speak to the beauty of what they do here, that you do have some sort of emotional investment with what happens by the end. You can make something that's a statement movie or says something big, but if it does not connect emotionally with the audience, it's just an intellectual endeavor that's kind of bland. It's like, okay, yeah. It's like that movie Crash, where it's like, okay, I get what you're saying, but I don't know, doesn't really hit my heart, sort of thing. Whereas this hits your heart and makes you think about it, and then you say, oh, I get what you're saying here, and I'm listening. I hear you, and I think that's an important thing. And I think you're right that Nux he's the character for the audience to understand and see how a worldview can change based on touching people who aren't from your experience.
Yeah, exposure to people outside of your sphere, outside of your circle. And one thing that I kind of want to note about his character is that they do such a great job it's such a great balancing act with his character, because before he kind of changes allegiances, and when he actually speaks to Immortan Joe, and then like Immortan Joe tells him, like, it is actually the one who sprays the chrome on his face.
It's like a blessing
for him.
Yeah.
It's total blessing. And then says, like, I will carry you to Valhalla myself. And then he slips and falls. You feel bad for him. Even though it's still on the wrong side of things, you still feel bad for him because you're connected with that character. And that is a very hard thing to do. And I applaud George Miller and company on developing that character.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think we're going to finally get back on road to the gas town. And I think did we ever make it to gas town? That was the one thing I never learned about this story. But yeah, we could almost do a follow-up on this, just on the story and plot alone. There's so many amazing things in this story. But we still have time for final thoughts and ratings. So any other thoughts you have, Tristan, on Fury Road, things we didn't miss, and give us a out of 5.
I think this is a great movie. I love this movie. I've rewatched this a lot. There are things that I would change. There are things that I would do differently, but not much, like not much at all. This is a thrill ride from beginning to end. This is so well paced. I would definitely change that the editing at the first act. I would remove that friggin' frame rate change, and I would also remove the completely unnecessary scene where they try to cut out the fetus. That was completely unnecessary. It was completely unnecessary. And I think it was George Miller testing the audience and us losing faith in that moment like we have in previous films. I think it's the old George Miller where he couldn't shake it off. So just for those two things, I'm giving it 4.5 war rigs.
What about you, John?
I don't I don't have the same problem with where they go after the baby that you do, because I think it really reinforces, I think where you're in danger with this movie is that Immortan Joe is the type of villain like the Joker, where he's so kitschy fun at points and so cartoony that you wind up liking him in spite of yourself. And I think that scene is key to making sure that you always hate him, that you always despise this character, because he's awful. And everybody around him is awful. They're terrible people. And but that's neither here nor there, in the sense that I do agree with you that the frame rate changes in the beginning chase. I hate them. I despise them. They get under my skin. They will always get under my skin. I don't like them. Like it's like green eggs and ham for me. It's going to take a hell of a campaign for me to get around to liking them. But I think that the whole grabs me, and I absolutely am along for the ride. Once it gets going, I'm just there. I even applaud the fact that the shot takes so long after the storm of Max buried in the sand for him to move. I'm there.
It almost looks like a landscape.
I'm on the edge of my seat saying, okay, when's he going to move? When's he going to move? I wind up giving this a 5. I enjoy it from beginning to finish. Are there minor quibbles here or there? Of course. Absolutely. I struggle to think of a film. There are maybe 3 films in my entire life where I say I wouldn't change a frame. This is not one of them, but I still give it a 5. So that's me.
Interesting compliment. I was really excited to watch, because I haven't watched Fury Road in a little while. I watched it a couple times after it had come out, and it had been a spell. But, in watching the Mad Max movies leading up to it, I'm like, okay, well, but Fury Road's in like 3 weeks. And it's like, oh, Fury Road's in like 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh, am I overhyping this? But like I said in the beginning, I wish I'd seen it on a bigger screen yesterday. It was not that it detracted, but I think that is a big part of it. I think if you temper that expectation in your mind of it will be a different experience in theater versus at home, no matter how pixel perfect, going to the theater is a bigger thing than a variable. It's part of us as society. But we covered that in the beginning of the episode. But this was a fun ride, but not pedal to the metal the entire time. There was times like where they let off the gas and it coasts for a while. And we learn about Furiosa. We learn about the many mothers and the other, aspects. And it's not like Emoton is always kind of right over the hill, but they have moments to sleep and moments to rest. So it's because you need that. You need to let off the gas every once in a while, or you'll blow your second engine. But I too, also, like Tristan said, I did not like the fetus part. Maybe it's just an ick thing, because it's like, why it doesn't need to be in there. Now, granted, I think the line that is given to his big brother, I had a baby brother and he's perfect in every way, is like haunting. Like, that line is right out of Mad Max, but I didn't need to see or be connected in that other aspect of that scene. But yeah, so I definitely give it a 5. It's like we've been on this road. We went from a 1, for me personally, it was a 1 on Mad Max to 3 to 3 to 5. It's like, okay, George Miller, pull out that Mad Max script and dust it off, change a little bit of it. Here's a little bit more money, and let's see if we can turn this into your pinnacle. So, like you said, John, I'm interested to see what Furiosa is going to give us, because it could all be the absolute best movie in the franchise or not, but it's hard to say. All right, well, we thank you for listening to us here in Houselights. Next week we are doing a one-off because the stars aligned on the calendar and our schedules, and are going to be talking about Ramis, talking about Groundhog Day here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.